Hey, what's up? Silas here. Just a few thoughts I have on the recent attacks that have been going on in the United States of America. Some specific attacks and the recording of some of these, and just some things around them. The way, in particular, there's been some situations of black people, in people that would, I think, self-identify as black, attacking non-black people. There's been a rise in that, and just the coverage of some of these things. It's just something that I just wanted to talk about a bit here. Okay, to start off, I'd like to take y'all back. Thank you for listening, whoever might be listening right now, guys, gals, and everything in between. But I'd like to take y'all back to 2011. Try to remember where you were when you first heard that there was this massive earthquake in Fukushima, in Japan, in around that area. I don't know if it was actually Fukushima, but I remember hearing that. And then there was coverage of, oh, this has happened. There's going to be a tsunami coming, because that was sometime after, I think, the Indonesia tsunami, and this was still it's a long time ago. Right now, that's over a decade ago. It's exactly a decade ago, almost. Yeah, almost a decade ago. I think it was towards the end of the year. But I remember when I heard that happening, one of the things I was thinking was, oh wow, it's in Japan. That is one culture, that is one location that a lot of people are very tied into tech. They have the ability to record things. A lot of people, not even just being tied into tech, there's a difference with having the phone. Like, I know a lot of people today who have the phone, like my parents, for example, they'll have the phone, but then sometimes they'll be like, hey, I'll remind them, hey, if something happens and you need my help, just record it. Or if something's going on, you want somebody else to see it, just record it. Or just look online and find the information. Being tied into tech in the sense where it's part of your thing, oh, something's happening, let me actually record it, is different than just having the ability to it. But I thought, okay, with Japan, they will have that, and they will be able to have that in their culture to actually record things. And not just them themselves, but the cities and places itself are going to have the technology to actually get actual footage and report and see what happens with that tsunami. And you can still go online right now, and you can find that footage, and you can watch that footage, and you can see what happened. Both from people just taking it themselves, from helicopters coming in, and just seeing those massive waves just come into the land. And I remember there was one in particular where there was some cars coming in, and then people stopped, and people were panicking, kind of ran off. Then the water just comes in. There's this roiling wall of just constant. It's not that movie kind of thing with a massive wave cresting and things. It's just this ongoing torrent of just mass. So you see these movements moving in, and we were able to actually get those, and that was one of the things I thought, oh wow, look at this footage. Something else is happening recently. I've talked about this before, how I don't think the world is actually more dangerous today than it has been in the past. The difference is that we just have the ability to see more of the things. Now they talk about certain figures, and they say, oh, we have a spike in, like in the United States of America, they're saying there's a spike in anti-Asian, in Asians being attacked. And I've been aware of the statistics of crime in general, and predominantly the people who commit violent physical crimes are black people, or the demographics of black people disproportionately according to their numbers. And Asians have been the ones who are the least violent in physical crimes in that kind of sense, armed violence and things like that. So with them also being one of the most minority, if you want to count Ashkenazi Jews and different Jews is a different kind of thing, and of course the Native Americans is a different thing. And a different thing that happens with the natives is, with the Native Americans, are the smallest minority in the United States of America, if you're discounting the Jews. I think it might be tied, but the Native Americans mostly live on reservations. And the Asian Americans also do have a situation where they balkanize in a sense, and they normally have their enclaves. But their enclaves are mostly in cities, mostly in places where there's also a high number of African Americans, who they also concentrate in certain cities. Now, you have a situation where there is a lot higher number of African Americans attacking, African American criminals committing crimes against Asian Americans than the inverse. But majority of the people who commit crimes against natives, because most of them are on reservations, are natives. I think if you looked into it, this is one thing that I'm not sure. I might look into this. Majority of the people who commit crime against Asians are probably other Asians as well, too. If you go into places like, I lived in San Francisco for a while, and that was one of the cool things with going in San Francisco, and also went up to Seattle to visit my friend. And in those places, there's a lot higher population of Asians, and you just have Asians doing certain jobs in places, just regular cashier type jobs, where I didn't normally see them living in the East Coast cities that I've actually experienced, and especially living in the Midwest. You didn't really see that much because they were just lower numbers. but there's a lot more in San Francisco. So in those areas, they still have issues with like triads and other kind of gang things in there. We're kind of rambling. We're going to get towards the point. So there is something in there, and I think this higher track where we're looking now, we're tracking some of these attacks more. We're getting more information, and the world might seem more dangerous today. And this is a basic example I brought up in an older video that I have, that the world gets safer, but the appearance of suffering increases. Because let's say sometime in the past, you would live in a given area, in an area with 100 homes. There would be 20 homes broken in 100 years ago. But you would only hear about, because you didn't have the technology, you would only hear about 2 of the homes actually being broken in during that entire year. You'd only hear about 2 of the homes because you'd have to walk up and actually meet the person during the time that was robbed and things like that for that person to tell you about. It might be your home, it might be your neighbor. For you to actually see the actual results of that home being broken in, well, you'd have to physically actually go to that home to actually see it. That would reduce it. Now, you live in an area, that same area of 100 homes now has 1,000 homes. But at the same point, there might only be 10 homes broken in, like one, or even 12 homes, one every month. But every home that's broken in is being covered by the news. Every home that's broken in, there's people with the cameras and the film and the people who have been robbed talking about, oh, this was horrible, this happened. So it might seem you're now aware of 12 or 10, let's say only 10 of the 100 of the 1,000 homes. You're aware in very concise detail about how those homes are broken in. So your perception might seem like it's more dangerous, even though in the past 100 years ago, it was 20 out of 100 homes are broken into. Now, with 10 or 12, or you're aware of 10 out of 1,000 homes broken into, but the details you're aware of change the kind of situation. Now that happens with the film, with the showing, with the video of the things. And there's been 2 recent attacks I want to talk about in specific. There was one in the Navy Yard in Washington, D.C., and this was a place that they said the numbers had been coming up of people robbing, in particular taxis and ride-sharing people. There was a video, it was a tough video, I think it was Muhammad Anwar. It was a tough video. He's trying to get back into his vehicle. There's 2 teens, black female teens in his vehicle, found out that they're 13 and 15. They're in the vehicle, someone is recording, he's on the side of the street, then he kind of moves off to the side, and then it looks like there's a taxi coming in there. As I'm explaining the video, if you want to watch it for yourself, it's available. It's also something I'll be talking about that. And then he's saying, they're stealing my car, they're stealing my car, and the 2 teens through the windshield seem to be complaining. The one on the passenger side seems to reach for the passenger side door, and then it's like, okay, no, go, 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 go. She seems to be saying something to the person in the driver's seat. Apparently they were tasing him during this time. Muhammad Anwar is kind of hanging on the door trying to get in, and then they speed off. And you see the person who's recording watch, and then I think the door kind of slams on something on the side of the road, and then it goes down the end of the road, and the guy's holding his camera to watch what's happening, and then they turn, you hear the accident, and the guy starts jogging after. And then he runs over and he gets to the location at the intersection where they turned off, and the car is on its side. It's on its like left side like this. And there's somebody trying to climb out, and it's one of the females who was in the vehicle. I think she was the one that was in the passenger seat, like, because seemed to be wearing the top that she was the one on the left side of the car. I'm forgetting where the driver's wheel is. I think she was on the passenger seat, but she's climbing out. Then he runs to the side of the car. There's some National Guard there because the National Guard is still occupying the United States of America Capitol because, yeah, it's let's not get into that right now. But anyway, so they're in there and then they're pulling the people out and he's like, I saw it. They stole the car. They stole the car. The National Guardsmen, they don't know what's happened. A car just came speeding around the corner and flipped over. And then you notice that Muhammad Anwar is over there crumpled on the side and they're helping this female out of the vehicle. And he's saying, like, I saw what happened. They stole the car. They stole the car. And one of those girls is yelling, my phone is in the car. And this man is just laying there crumpled on the side of the street. No one's coming up to him. And you see that. And and the coverage of that video, and to me, that's what I'm saying. That kind of thing was happening in DC. I used to live in the DC area. One of my friends, when I was in school in West Virginia, went back to DC and he was just over there for a break, went to a club, leaving. He was driving a friend's car. This is what I heard, was he driving a friend's car. His friend owed some people some money, involved in some drugs and things like that. They shot up his car. and they killed my friend. They killed my teammate. And at that time, we didn't see the video of that. That didn't get out. That's not something. My friends in West Virginia, they grow up around guns. They got guns around West Virginia. You go to people's homes. They have the shooting season. Like, they have bucks. They have the things, the trophy hunting type of thing. They're used to it. But people don't really shoot each other dead where I was in West Virginia. So some of the people weren't really understanding that when my friend got shot, this was not going to be something that it would probably make the news. It will be passed. It's not even going to be news for a long time. Like, it's just. I don't know if they caught the actual people who did it, but he was shot early morning or late night, however you want to call it. That was probably one of that week. That was probably like the 5th or 6th kind of incident, if they're going to find the information. So there are all these things. The guns were illegal. It's not like they were registered where you can just say, oh, this was from all these things in there. So you don't see that. Most people didn't see that. But now we see what's happening there in a better DC because they have cameras, because you have people looking at that, because people have higher expectations of safety. And people were looking at that video and saying, okay, this you get to see what actually happens there. So I'm wondering, was this happening more in the past? I think so. But it happening now, you actually get to see it. Some of the people coming out and talking with that video, this is one of my questions out there. We're showing the actual videos out there. What do you think about those videos being out there? For me, I'd rather know. If that stuff's going on, I'd rather know that it's there. Nobody's forcing anyone to actually watch this video. Some people were tone policing. Somebody I got into on social media, he seems to be a teacher of journalism, someone who's like, why are you sharing this? I'm like, I'm sharing this because it's information. I'd rather know that there's information there. The video itself, what's going on, with the knowledge of what's going on, is a horrific thing. But it's not gruesome in the sense where it's obscene in that kind of sense. Like I said, it's emotional. You see that thing happening. But I'd rather that video be able for people to see and be aware of what's happening. Just like when the tsunami came in, I want people to be aware that if an earthquake happens, this is what happens. So you don't just have this myth. You understand if something happens and there's an alarm, you need to get to a place of safety before the tsunami comes. You might think you're safe, but this is what happens after if you just keep going on like it's after. Marion Browser or something. Was it Muriel Browser, I think. Muriel Browser. She's the mayor of DC. I think they had a scheduled thing to release this video saying, like, if you're in certain places, you need to have, you need to make sure you close your car and things like that to be safe. And the steps people can take. And this is what I was thinking, like, with that, I think it was just a time thing and nobody in their system actually got to the break. Wait, this just happened. Let's not release this video time. Because it was like the day after this video comes out. And she's probably addressed the issue since then. But that comes out and there's this whole thing in that situation. People say, why are you bringing race into this? Why did you have to mention the race of those teens? I'm like, well, the race isn't the only important thing, but it's not completely unrelated to the situation. They also said these are 13 and 15. Why is that a thing? Why does that count? Why did I say, oh, it was two females. It was two individuals. One of them was 5'2", and the other one was 5'4", and 130 pounds. And one of them had, like, if that's worth, one of them had graduated, one of them was a 9th grader. What are the things that you think are pertinent to say in these kind of situations, and what is not pertinent to say in that kind of situation? When these videos come out, I think it's important for it to be out there. That person I got into the back and forth with said, oh, what if you're insensitive to their family? I said, okay, I don't know. Are you a family member? Have you asked the family members? And then the family members came out with a release and said, could you please stop sharing this video? Because we're in a position and my father was out here trying to make money for the family, and it's kind of thing that I said, okay, in that sense, I'm taking that into consideration. But this happened in public. This is still something of public interest. So I'll take that into consideration, but I still think it's worth sharing. I still think it's worth putting out there so people see what's happening and people can be more aware of these things happening out there. If this was something that was in his private home, that's something else. That's private property. But the person who recorded it himself, that's their private property to record that and put that out there. I think that's of public interest. Because, for example, CNN comes out and they say, and they were accurate with this report, and they said these two teens stole this vehicle and it resulted in an accident that resulted in the death of Muhammad Anwar. That is an accurate report. But the way it's covered when it's this situation versus other situations is pertinent to look at, and that's part of what I'm talking about here. If you talk about in that situation, imagine there was a tweet coming out from CNN with a story saying, oh, in Minnesota, there was a 19-year veteran of the police force showed up after there was a call for a possible felony, and while the suspect was resisting, they went and put a completely agreed trained, like part of the training was to actually put them on the ground and restrain them in this way as they were being recorded by people, which led to a possible situation of the death of one George Floyd that was also found to have ingested X amount of these illegal drugs. If that was actually what was called there, they didn't mention George Floyd's race, they didn't mention David Chauvin's race, the policeman who was kneeling on his neck in that kind of sense. They didn't say a specific kneel. They just said this was an actual police procedure, because it was literally a police procedure that actually ended up in that situation with George Floyd dying. So this was actually an accident, but people were like, oh, they murdered him. Like, nah, that's not directly murder. I mean, they're up for murder charges. I think it was like 3rd degree, but I forgot what I actually wrote. I put a thing, maybe put a link below to it, but I'm rambling a bit. Now let me get to the next story. So with that, that's what I'm pointing out from there. What do you all think about what is actually going to be shared? What should actually be talked about? Why are certain things talked about? Why are certain things ignored? Now, I'll tie that up with this last story that I just saw. Now this one was, it's tied into something I started noticing when I heard that video. And when I saw that video of the people, of those 2 girls who stole that car, I saw there was a taxi cab that kind of drove by, one of those taxi cab vans. It seemed to slow down and kept going. There was some other people walking across the street. Of course, there was a person recording, and there seemed to be somebody else as the person was recording. And people start asking, why aren't those people doing anything? Why aren't they stopping and intervene? I'm like, are you going to stand in front of a vehicle? You know, are you just going to stand in front of the vehicle as they drive off? Because is that you? I don't know what to do in that kind of situation. But people start saying, why would those people not intervene? And that's another thing that I noticed that led me to decide to record this video right now, is this morning I saw this video, or was it, yeah, this morning, I think this morning might have been yesterday, but in New York City, and they got footage of the guy's face. This guy's walking, this footage is coming from inside some building, and you see it outside the door. Apparently this 60-something-year-old Asian woman was going to church, something, so it might have been on the weekend. People go to church also not on Sundays. They're very devout, depending on the church services and things like that. So on the way there, and this man just knocks her to the ground and kicks her, and I think stomps on her, and then walks off. And then you see the security, you see somebody who was looking from inside the building outside, and then somebody walks from kind of off camera and shuts the door. And I watched the story, the news coverage of this, and most of the top comments in the CBS story are, why didn't that security guard should be fired? He shouldn't be, like, he should reprimand. Oh, just reprimand. They should fire that man. How come he didn't do anything? The security guard is somebody who is employed to secure the location, the premises, not to secure what happens outside. Even the police themselves, if you actually look into, are enforcement agents. It's actually gone up to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. The Supreme Court has said there's nothing with the police, that whole serve and protect thing. They're not supposed to keep you away from being hurt. They're supposed to come in and enforce the laws that are set by the system. That's the way it works. Security guards are hired and employed. Why should that security guard be hired and employed? And in another video, some guy was in a metro and they just showed like he was fighting this one Asian man. This is again another black man fighting an Asian man, punching him. They're punching back. They're kind of got their arms together and things like that. And then the guy chokes him out, and the guy gives out and he just drops and then punches him. He's got the mask on because, yeah, we got this COVID times. And then he just glares at people and walks off. And then some people in that one are like, oh, what was he doing? Then some people, oh, well, he called him the N-word. So yeah, you call him that. Again, like, why is there a certain group of people that you can say a word to them and then all of a sudden it's okay for those people to physically beat you down and choke you out? What is this? Who is this special group of people? If you are part of a group where somebody can say a word to you and that means that gives you the actual okay to come out and engage in physical violence against other people who said a simple word to you and escalate to that point, and you're the special group that does it, that is a privilege. Now, in these 3 senses, excusing, oh, the Asian man said a word to this being, and then all of a sudden, that means that being is in the right to attack that Asian man physically. This man who was actually being stolen, why do you even mention that the race of these girls? How do you even mention it? Why does that even come in? Why are you bringing race into this? No. I mean, why didn't somebody else come out? Why didn't those people who were recording come out and intervene? When it comes to that security guard, those people might have been white. I don't know. You couldn't see it on the camera, but regardless, it was the males. They were definitely male. Why didn't those security people, why didn't those people watching go in and protect that Asian woman? Why didn't they go in? Hold them accountable. In these three senses, where was the hold the people accountable? Teach those girls not to carjack. Teach that man to react to words with words and not physical violence. Teach random black men walking down the street not to just push over Asian ladies and stomp them while they're going to church. How come people don't go to that kind of place? And this is why I'm tying it in with the thing with the tsunami. When you watch that wave coming in, that part of nature, that inanimate part of nature coming in, nobody watches that and would see somebody recording as a kid was drowning. Let's say there's an Asian woman drowning in there. Let's say there was somebody stuck in his car and that wave came in and just pushed the people off and somebody was just there recording. Let's say somebody had said something, had yelled something or something in the situation, and maybe there was an animal that was tied into a certain location and somebody crowded up on that animal in a certain sense. Let's say it's in the zoo and the wave is coming or something, and you're crowding in on that animal and that animal lashes out at you in kind of sense. In those three situations, first of all, no one asks, why are the people just recording and watching? Nobody really asks that, because in that kind of sense, it's a force of nature. They kind of say, it's a force of nature and things like that. But the key part is you would never say, why is the water drowning that person? You would say, why didn't the humans who have agency actually engage and do something more to prevent another human being from coming to harm? Because you would give the people agency. But in these situations, they seem to ignore or treat those black girls, those black teens. That black male is just kind of like an animal. He just put in a situation, he heard a word, and he just flipped out. This other man who's walking, those top comments don't even come in to actually talk about that individual. Why didn't we find that person? It's no. Why didn't the white men, why didn't the people who are security, why didn't the people filming, why didn't those security guards, why didn't they go in? Why didn't these people in the metro and the subway, why didn't they go in and intervene? Because in those situations, they seem to be taking away a sense of agency from the actual individuals, from the actual perpetrators, from the actual people committing crimes. In that sense, they're just looking at them like those are not even kids. Even with kids, people treat kids in a different way. People treat kids even in a higher way where I'm like, oh, this kid's throwing a tantrum. Where it's in the situation with a kid throwing a tantrum, a kid is normally just frustrated where you're taking certain things away from the kid and the kid's limited and the kid doesn't have any other ways to actually deal with things. So they throw a tantrum and people are like, oh, it's the kid's fault. No, in that sense, it's the adults around who are mistreated, who are not addressing the needs of this kid that has these limitations. But now with the teens, okay, maybe you say they weren't kids. But those two other individuals were seeming of adult age. They were males of adult age. But a large part of society looks at black people in the United States of America as lower than human. They hold them to a lower standard. This is a specific group of people that if you say words to them, if you just approach them in a certain way, they will act violently to you. This is a specific group of people where simply, if these other people, these white people, if they just are silent about what's going on, these black people can't fix their actual lives. What happened to these people from 300 years ago, hundreds of years ago, is more important than what their parents do to them today. Oh, the way that they're not together, their families are breaking apart, that's not them. That's due to the things white people, that's the things society does to them. These people have been almost bred in that kind of sense. Where if there's an animal, there's a Rottweiler and bites your face off, you don't say, you think that's the nature of the Rottweiler because we bred the Rottweiler that way. And just saying that itself might get this video knocked down. But I just wanted to make that point. And thank you for listening. It's been a bit of a ramble. It's been all over the place. But the two takeaways from here are, what are your thoughts on sharing things? People who say, let's not share this video of these 13-year-old girls because the family has said something. If George Floyd's family came out and said, please don't share the video of Derek Chauvin, of that incident happening, because our family is still mourning on this situation, I would still think the George Floyd video was worth the people who recorded it sharing. If I had recorded it and George Floyd's family told me not to share it, I would still share it. If I had been there when those 13-year-old girls robbed Mohammed Anwar, I would still have shared it, even if their family directly contacted me and said, don't do it. I would be like, no, I understand what you're saying, but I still think this is important for the public to see this. Now, you might call me and ask for that, but that's just where I'm coming from on that. And then I think the more important part, why do you think there seems to be a move to treat specifically black people in this sense? Where they kind of just, it's like cut them out of here. We're going to, I don't know if it's white silence, white blindness, societal blindness to black people. It's like they're just out of there. They're just not in there. They keep talking about this spike in anti-Asian hate, but they don't want to talk about the spike, that the fact that these numbers are actually being driven majority by by black people, not African Americans. There's a difference between African American and black. By black people attacking, and there's no difference in Asian Americans and Oriental. I would say like Oriental is kind of closer to what African American actually is and things like that, but we can get into that. There's different things with that, and I'll talk about it in a different place. But thank you for listening. I think I'm just trying to get those things together. I tried to get it in long enough. I don't want to like edit this down. I like getting. I want to just get my. This is kind of like the rant type of things. We're just tying in two ideas together, and hopefully that made some sense. I'll probably come in and discuss these things at length in different ways. Just trying to get some more content out there. Have some stuff on my channel, getting more into like conversation type of spaces things. I just hadn't done one of these rants in a while, and this was just something that was irking me as I just came back in for my walk, still kind of sweating and whatnot, to kind of get my glow on. But anyway, so that's it for now. Like, share, subscribe. More information and things coming, more of these conversations coming, and I'd like to have more people coming on. If you hear these topics and you think these are things that you want to expand on, or why you want, let me know in the comment section. I'm trying to look at a way where I can get in a place where I can engage more and actually have conversations with people about these topics. Because with some of these things, I normally post on some social media things, and then people come in the comment section. I'm like, okay, from that, I build up my thoughts, but this one hadn't had too much interaction. But anyway, so that's it for now. Till next time, goodbye.